Every other god on Olympus had a story that went up. Ares won battles. Apollo had his prophecies and his light. Aphrodite was loved without conditions. And then there was the one who got thrown off a mountain before he could walk. Hera looked at her newborn son, her own son, decided something about him was wrong, and threw him into the sky. He fell for a full day, Homer specific about that. A full day. He landed on Lemnos, and the locals found him in the volcanic rock. Nobody came down from Olympus to check. That's the version Hesiod tells. Homer tells a different one. In that version, it's Zeus who throws him. Hephaestus steps between his parents during a fight, and Zeus grabs him by the ankle and hurls him out of heaven. Permanent limp. Both versions were kept. Both agree on everything that matters. He hit the ground alone, and he stayed there. Neither story ends with anyone going to get him. Not a messenger, not a letter. He was gone, and Olympus kept going without him. He had nothing when he landed. No training, no inheritance, no one who acknowledged him. What he had was volcanic ground, fire, and something you can't give anyone. He built his forge on Lemnos. Hesiod says this. The island had a real crater that stayed warm, and ancient Greeks already associated it with him, or him with it. The record of his early years is almost blank. No childhood stories, no education, he just worked. Velázquez painted the forge in 1630, and what you're looking at is probably the most honest version of Hephaestus in the Western tradition. Apollo has just walked in with news. You can see the workers frozen, staring at the divine visitor. But look at the forge itself. The tools, the embers, the order of the space. This was running before Apollo arrived, and it'll run after he leaves. Homer calls Hephaestus Klutotechnes, gloriously skilled. That word lands differently when you know he taught himself. No master, no divine inheritance of method. He built things until they didn't break. Then he built better things. He sent Hera a gift. A throne, more beautiful than anything on Olympus, which meant more beautiful than anything in existence. She sat down, she couldn't stand up. The chains were woven into the structure itself, finer than thread, invisible, impossible to remove without the hand that made them. Every god on Olympus tried. Hermes, the one who could open anything, pass through any barrier, couldn't do it. Ares tried force, it failed. Poseidon tried. Also nothing. Zeus, who had thrown Hephaestus out of heaven by the ankle, sent messengers to Lemnos. Hephaestus didn't answer. What he'd done wasn't complicated. He hadn't petitioned for reinstatement. He hadn't hired anyone to argue his case. He'd built a mechanism so specific, so perfect, that the most powerful family in the universe couldn't release one of their own without his direct cooperation. They had to want him back. He'd made them want him back. And he waited. He waited long enough that they had to keep trying. He already knew what his price was. He just wasn't going to offer it until they'd run out of other options. The gods sent Dionysus. This is the part ancient Greek vase painters couldn't stop depicting. Attic black figure and red figure work from the 6th and 5th century BC is full of it. Hephaestus on a mule, Dionysus riding alongside, satyrs and revelers behind them heading toward Olympus. A parade. Every other god had tried logic or authority or force. None of it worked. Dionysus didn't try any of that. He went to Lemnos and drank with Hephaestus. The accounts that feel most real describe something closer to genuine friendship. Two gods who didn't belong in the Olympian social structure, spending time together. Dionysus was the outsider god, the one associated with margins and ecstasy, the one Zeus had to smuggle into his thigh to keep alive. He and the blacksmith had something in common, and drunk, or at ease, Hephaestus agreed to go back. One condition, Aphrodite as his wife. Zeus said yes, Olympus said yes. Hephaestus climbed on his mule, unhurried, and rode back to heaven. Not because they forgave him, because he'd built the leverage first, then used it. He named his price. They paid it. That's not a rescue. That's a negotiation. Once he was back, they used him constantly. The Iliad, Book 18, Thetis, arrives at the forge because Patroclus is dead and Achilles needs new armor. Homer spends 100 lines on what Hephaestus makes. The shield alone contains the entire world. 2 cities, one at peace and one at war, with harvests and dances and laws and battles, all rendered in metal. He built the palaces on Olympus. The Iliad mentions this almost in passing, the way you'd mention the furniture. He built Pandora, the first woman, assembled to Zeus's exact specifications. He built Talos, the bronze giant who walked the shores of Crete 3 times a day guarding the island. And then there are the golden handmaidens. Homer mentions them in the Iliad with stunning casualness. Automatons. Thinking machines, essentially, who could speak and reason and assist at the forge. If you slow down reading that passage, you're right to. He wrote it like it was nothing. When Venus came to commission the armor for Aeneas, Bull painted the scene. She's standing in the forge while Vulcan works. The detail that matters isn't the armor, it's the expression. He's already making it. She's still asking. Aphrodite didn't want him. This wasn't a slow discovery. The marriage was a political settlement. He demanded her as the price of returning. Zeus agreed. She was given over. Almost immediately, she took Ares as her lover. God of war, physically perfect, everything Hephaestus wasn't. The gods knew. There's a scally-ass tradition suggesting Hephaestus knew too from early on and said nothing. Tintoretto painted this Mars and Venus surprised by Vulcan around 1545, now in Munich. Mars is in the bed, the scene is about to be exposed. There's a dog in the painting, looking up at Vulcan with the oblivious trust of an animal, unaware of the disaster happening around it. The comedy is built in. But here's what's harder to sit with. He'd spent years on Lemnos building things nobody came to see, and he understood what it meant to be ignored by people who were supposed to care. He may have had no illusions about Aphrodite. He asked for her anyway. A seat at the table was worth it, he got in, the marriage was what it was, but he walked into it knowing. He built a net. The Odyssey, Book 8. Homer tells it with something that reads almost like appreciation for the engineering. The net was bronze, fine enough to be invisible, lighter than thread, stronger than chains. He strung it over the bed, told Aphrodite he was leaving for Lemnos, and she immediately invited Ares. The net fell. Hephaestus summoned every god.